All right, I think we're ready to get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here tonight. This is our second community meeting regarding the Oak Hill Well project. So this is our Oak Hill Well project update. First, we just wanted to extend our gratitude to the community for being so available and vocal and letting us know your concerns and communicating with us. We appreciate the opportunity to have these types of conversations with you. So thank you for being here. And I know it's not easy to take an hour or two out of your evenings, so we really appreciate your participation. And thank you for joining us virtually tonight. We try and do a blend of in-person and virtual meetings just because we know some are easier for some people to attend, and some people prefer virtual, others prefer in person, depending on what your schedule allows. So this helps us reach a broader section of the community. So thanks for being here with us. I'd like to introduce our Director of Public Works and Utilities, Christopher Bolt. And I'm Jessica Medina. I help with communications and public outreach and engagement for the city of Petaluma. And Christopher, take it away.
Thanks so much, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you this evening, and thank you for joining. We are discussing something that's very important to our community. We all know that water is a valuable and necessary resource. Thankfully, our drought is over. We can celebrate that. However, the city is continuing to vision for a future where we are more and more resilient towards any future droughts. Climate change is very real. And one of the things we can pretty much know is that weather is unpredictable, whether it's heavy rains like we had this winter or periods with no rain. So we want to make sure that we're more resilient. And this project is a very important component in moving our community towards that. With that, I would like to introduce, I'm super proud of my team here. We have our Assistant Director, Gina Benedetti-Petnick. We have Dan Herrera, Director of Public Works and Utilities. The Director of Operations for our Deputy Director of Operations here at Public Works. And we have Erica Jacobs, Project Manager. I'll just let them each say hello real quick before we have Dan and Erica take it away. Gina, I'll turn it over to you just to say hi, and then you can segue to Erica and Dan. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Gina Benedetti-Petnick. I'm Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities. And with that, Erica, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Erica Jacobs, and I am a project manager at Public Works and Utilities. And I'm here tonight to discuss a very small piece that's related to something future project oriented at Oak Hill. With that, I'll turn it over to Dan Herrera.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Dan Herrera. Yes, I'm the Deputy Director of Operations here at Public Works, and I will be doing the bulk of the presentation here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and start to share my screen. Let me get that up and running for everybody. Can I get confirmation that my screen is visible to everybody?
It is. Thanks, Dan.
Excellent. Thank you. So I got to welcome everyone. Good evening. Again, my name is Dan Herrera, Deputy Director here, Operations. I'm joined here by Erica Jacobs, and we'll be talking about the Oak Hill Well project update. This will be our second community meeting, with our first meeting happening last August. If you hear noises, I apologize. This is my dog in the background that keeps bothering me when I have presentations like this. Okay, so on the agenda for tonight, we'll be talking about a project status update, where we are in the project cycle. We'll be talking about construction, what you can expect when we actually start construction. We'll be talking about some of the visual elements and opportunities for community feedback that we'll be having in the future here, and ultimately the next steps for the Oak Hill area. And we'll finish off with an opportunity for Q&A for any sort of comments or concerns that any of you might have. So for the project status, so where are you? Where are we in the process? After our meeting that we had last year at Oak Hill, we went to council on September 12th of last year, and we had two actions at this meeting. We adopted a mitigated negative declaration that essentially was we satisfied the environmental compliance requirements that were needed, and we also approved this as an actual project. Now, shortly after that meeting, Sonoma County actually enacted a well drilling moratorium. So that's a little bit of a reason, or the big reason why we are where we are. They stopped all well drilling permits until April of this year, and actually they extended it for a bit. Ultimately, it was lifted in May 18th of this year. So now we're looking at finalizing the design of the project, getting those construction documents ready to go, where we'll be ultimately bidding the project later this year and hopefully starting construction sometime in the fall. So again, why are we, I'm sorry, there's some feedback. Why are we doing, it's a little, I kind of want to talk about the Oak Hill refresher, just kind of come up to speed with everybody of, why we're doing what we're doing. We're in a drought. Why are we still doing this well? Well, essentially what we're doing is we're not drilling a well for the drought we just had. We're drilling a well for the future droughts or any sort of emergency that we might have. We have no local supply on the west side of town. Anytime any sort of earthquake or fire or any sort of emergency which disrupts our water delivery on the west side, we don't really have that local supply. So honestly, it's not just Oak Hill. We're looking at needing about 4, possibly even 5 wells on the west side of the city to ensure that with any emergency that we have, we can ensure that we're delivering the demand and satisfying the water requirements for the west side of town. I wanted to clear up a little bit about what this well actually is. So it's a 12-inch well. It's a PVC casing. It's fully underground. We're going to be drilling the well about 500 feet underground. While there are some visual elements, we'll be talking about that in a little bit. For the most part, the well itself is underground, and you really honestly won't see much of that. And I wanted to talk about when this is being used. What's the purpose of this well? Again, I want to reiterate that this is for emergencies. This is only for wells during fires, during earthquakes, during any sort of for future drought, anything that will disrupt the water system. This is when we're going to be utilizing the well. It's not going to be something that's used on the day-to-day basis. Okay. So here is about when this is happening. Want to go over the schedule for this project. So we're going to be bidding in June, July. That's where we're going to be going to bid the project to get our contractor on board. We're looking at having a September, October council award. We'll be going out to council to award the construction project. Ultimately in the fall, we'll be beginning the construction project. It's going to take about 3 to 4 months. We're not going to be drilling that entire time. That's kind of the full scope, mobilizing, getting materials, getting things. You'll see, activity happening for about that duration. Now, right after we start, we're going to be looking at engaging the community. So in the fall and the winter, we're looking at holding some community workshops, soliciting some feedback to some of these visible elements for the well that we'll be discussing in a little bit. Ultimately, in the winter, we're looking at completing the well drilling portion, having that all tidied up, the well installed itself, and then ultimately in the fall, later in the winter, possibly early spring, where we actually have final completion of the well, where we finish off those visible elements and have a complete well that we can actually deliver water into our system. So we want to be fully transparent on what you're going to see, during that construction period. On the left, we show a truck-mounted drill rig. This is the equipment that actually drills a well to a depth of 500 feet. The center picture you'll see, that's a sound wall. So we're going to be putting up about 20-foot sound walls. This is really the sound attenuation to dampen and to deflect the sound and activity so that the residents in the area don't really feel the impact of that construction period. And on the right, we have something called a Baker tank. And ultimately what this is it's a method to capture any of the water that's, through the process and the well development activities. This is used to capture the water, clarify the water, have sediment, have it drop out, and so that we can discharge that water to our system and take the solids out and dispose of that properly. what I have here is it's an aerial view of these construction activities. What you'll see in yellow is our laydown area. It's kind of behind that labyrinth and closer to some fences for some homes. There's not a lot of construction going on there. This is really for storage for materials or any sort of piping used during the construction process. The work area shown in blue is really where that activity is going to be happening. I have the drill rig, shown where the location of the well is going to be, the potential location for that Baker tank, and also showing where some potential sound walls. This isn't final, but looking at some possibilities to implement those sound walls so that it deflects and dampens any of the noise activities that happens, in that area. This next slide is kind of, it's right at the labyrinth. It's kind of really showing you a highlight area of where that activity is really going to happen. And so right to the right of the well, of that labyrinth, you'll see, in the star, it's very faint. I apologize for that. That's kind of right where the well is actually going to be, going to be drilled. We're going to have, that's the laydown area is going to be behind where that fence area is. We're going to have some material storage, but ultimately right in the front is where we're going to have most of the activity of the construction for the well. So this, now that we had kind of talked about what's actually happening during construction, I wanted to kind of go over what the final elements and where we're really going to be looking at soliciting community feedback, from our community. We're looking at, there's three elements that we're looking at. It's the wellhead location, which is shown here. This is right off of the labyrinth. This is where the location of the well is going to be. We're looking at the well house itself. This is going to be up on that upper ridge, closer to the reservoir. And we also need a PG&E transformer that delivers power to the well. So these are really opportunities that we can solicit feedback, because these are things that as the community visits the site on a daily basis, you're going to be looking and seeing these elements, and really we want to solicit feedback and know what the community wants so that they have something that they're proud of, that they can be okay with as additions to the Oak Hill site. Apologize. So here's some other another slide kind of showing just highlighting in yellow. It's kind of crude, but it really gives you an idea of where these locations for these items are going to be, these visual elements. Right here's the entrance from Park Avenue. This is where our PG&E transformer is going to be. We have some underground line that comes off of a power pole off of Pleasant Hill, and this is where the transformer is going to be. Here next to the labyrinth, this is ultimately where the wellhead is going to be, and up on this little hill right here. Sorry, I'm using the wrong cursor. Up on this hill is where the well house is going to be. So this is another slide showing where that well house is. Here's where there was an old horseshoe pit that's been removed, but ultimately this is where that flat area where we're going to have our well house. Throughout this whole process, we're going to be maintaining, once we're done with the well house, we're maintaining this footpath, knowing how important it is to the community to keep that in place so that the community can utilize the site for walking and other activities. So now I want to talk about what these visible elements actually are. What is a wellhead? What's a well house? What are these things? So the wellhead is, again, the actual location of the well. Here's kind of a rough diagram of what a well is. Again, this is going to be drilled to a depth of about 500 feet. This contains the submersible pump. There's some electrical wiring that delivers power to that submersible pump. Really, this is where we get access to our well. This is where we can make sure that we maintain this well. We pull the pump, any sort of, if there's any, it's to go bad or any repairs we made. This is where we need access for that well maintenance. On the right, you'll see this is essentially what the well that we drilled for Willowbrook. This is next to the 101 Casino. It's PVC pipe. This isn't what it looks like completed, but this is where once the well is drilled and capped, this is essentially what the wellhead looks like. So that being said, that's not how we want to finish the project. What we're not going to do is we're not going to just have that PVC pipe that's sticking up out of the ground. We're not going to have any sort of visible piping that's running along the ground. Ultimately, we want to put something, again, that could be used by the community. It could be as intrusive as or unintrusive as a manhole lid. It's completely underground, straight, nothing that you really see. Or we can install something that's more usable, some seating area, something that's more visual. This is where we're looking at possibly, or we're looking at engaging the community. We'll be holding a community workshop. We'll be holding possibly an online survey, other methods to essentially gauge everyone in that area to see what's really wanted, what the public wants to see at Oak Hill. So the other element is our well house. Essentially what this is what contains some of the brains and important parts of the well. This is where we have our electrical controls, what starts and stops the well pump. This is where we have our flow measuring devices, making sure that we're measuring all the flow that comes in and out of the ground. We have our SCADA. This is what communicates the well to the water field office that we have next to the Lucchese Pond that we have here. And ultimately also there is the disinfection elements to make sure that we're ensuring the health and safety of the residents of Petaluma. This here is our well house that we have at Del Oro Park. Inside you'll see some piping, valves, some electrical controls. This is our disinfection that we have. And this is the PG&E meter that essentially powers the well itself. Again, we're looking at community feedback. It could be as simple as a tough shed that we have here, or it could be a little bit more elaborate. Again, we're going to be engaging the community, soliciting feedback on what that visual element, what do the residents want to see when they visit Oak Hill. Lastly, we need a PG&E transformer at the site. So for this well, we need 3-phase power. It's a special type of power, requires an above ground transformer, but we actually see it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for a possible art project. Again, it's located at that entrance. We have a security gate right off of Park Avenue. And this is where we are going to find opportunities for, hey, we can have some art. We can have something really beautiful that as people visit Oak Hill, it's something they can be proud of and something they can visit and see. So we have an in-house public art, representation that I've engaged, and we're looking at future opportunities for artists or something. So as we move along in the process, we're going to be engaging the community. Is this something that you like? Is this something that you might not like? But again, we want to solicit that feedback to make sure that we're doing it the right way. Now that is essentially what our Oak Hill Well project is. Now there are other projects in the pipeline that we've been looking at. It's a much bigger site. We have that reservoir, and now I'm going to pass it along to Erica, so she can really kind of talk about what our next steps are in the area.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to just very briefly tonight touch on a future upcoming project that we're just beginning to start the planning process for. In fact, we haven't even, this year would be the first time we begin to look at a scope for bringing on some consulting resources to begin a very preliminary planning phase of this project. But what we're looking at doing over the next several years is replacing the existing Oak Hill reservoir or tank that's at the top of the hill there. And has been decommissioned since 2015 due to structural issues and the need to replace its roof and so on. And rather than proceeding with any of those upgrades at that time, the city decommissioned the reservoir itself, and now we're looking at planning for its replacement. What's important to note is we're not planning to replace it with a traditional municipal above ground tank or tower. So we really wanted to emphasize that. What we are planning to look at is the planning and design options for putting in an underground, completely buried or predominantly buried. If in the case of like the top picture, there's some element above grade or is tucked in with the grade, but we're looking at predominantly burying the tank and having opportunities on the surface for open space, expansion of that feeling that it's a part of the park, or park-like amenities on the surface. And so that is a very key element of the design at very early on that we would seek to engage with the community about, but on all aspects of the project as well, to make sure the community stays informed as we move this along. This is going to be a very long process to go through early preliminary design, environmental studies, and then moving into, and we'll talk about the schedule in just a moment, but a long process with a lot of opportunities for community engagement and collaboration. And we look forward to bringing this to the community for that discussion when we're ready. We will have a website up and running where you can follow along and look for updates and sign up for updates. And that is listed there at the bottom of this slide, cityofpetaluma.org/Oak Hill Tank. With that, we can go to the next slide. Again, this is just a very high level planning schedule, but just to give the community members a sense of the timeline for this project. As I stated, we're just now beginning the planning process to get this project up and running. And in 2024, we would be hopefully having some consulting resources on board with us, and beginning some preliminary design and environmental studies just to understand the site better and what our parameters are. Then moving into a more formal design and permitting process in about 2025 through 27, and not really anticipating beginning any kind of construction until around 2028. But again, that community engagement is going to be a critical piece of this all along the way. And so as we further delve into the project, we'll develop a schedule that highlights those opportunities. And those would include things like workshops, website updates, online surveys, and all kinds of things where we could become visible in the community and talking to you there on site as well. With that, I think that's all we have on that project for now. I'm going to turn it back over to Jessica for next steps. Or Dan.
Sure. Did you want to, Jessica, you want me to start? I could talk about the.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, just the construction project. So again, how will you know when we're doing and when we're doing it? For the construction project, generally we have our mailers that we go out. We're going to inform the public weeks in advance of, this is when, have really targeted dates of when we're going to start and stop, the construction activities there. We have our Oak Hill Well website that we're going to be updating regularly as we get into the process of when this is bid, when the construction window is going to start. But we're also going to be soliciting that feedback for those visual elements. And this is where I think Jessica is going to really help us out with her team on how we solicit that feedback and how we engage that community. And Jessica, maybe you can, speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, thank you. So this part of the project I find really exciting because it's an opportunity for us to collaborate with the community to make, some functional elements potentially really beautiful and reflections of our values and, what we'd like to see in the area. So we'll be reaching out to you in a similar fashion that we did for the Oak Hill Well project. So we'll do postcards that will come in the mail. We may do an ad in the Argus or something like that, and then we'll post to the city's community update email and social media channels. And so we'll be soliciting community feedback in a couple of ways. We'll do an online survey, and then we'll also hold 1 or 2 community meetings or workshops where we can look at different options. So yeah, more to come on that. And if you visit, well, actually, you guys are probably all signed up, anybody who's on this meeting, but if you visit the project webpage, cityofpetaluma.org/OakHillWell, and sign up on the form, then that's a great way to stay informed because we can send dedicated emails to those who have signed up there as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our presentation for the project. This is where we're going to open it up to any questions or comments and hopefully provide some answers to you. So Jessica, take it away. I think hopefully we can, have some awesome questions and some discussion about the project. I'm going to see how I can stop my video.
Okay, Great, thanks, Dan. So I don't see any hands raised yet. Does anybody, oh, I see one. Let me see here. Joe Castillo, I'm going to allow you to speak. Okay, Joe, if you unmute, great.
Thank you. So the question that I have, there are actually two. Once the well drilling actually begins, what will be the hours, the work hours that we would expect to have that drill rig going? And then it looks like the sound barrier is actually just, I'm not sure if it's following the hill or using the hill to help mask some of the sound, but could the sound barrier be adjusted if it proves that it's not effective? Those are the two questions.
Yes. So to answer your second question first, yes. So yeah, we are looking at hopefully using the natural terrain there to muffle some of the sound, but we're giving ourselves some leeway in the contract to add any sort of sound attenuation that's needed. Again, the comfort and health of the residents in the area are going to be primary for us. So we did the initial location of the sound wall is right along some fencing, just to kind of those sides where the reservoir would hopefully help with that sound attenuation. But if we feel that we need to, we can actually put sound barriers right along fences. That's what happened in Park Place. We actually right along the fence for the homeowners put a sound wall there. So any sort of activity is really right there. We can stop that sound. As far as construction activities goes, for the Park Place and for Willowbrook, we actually were able to complete those during just normal working hours. A little bit extended, we were in the summer months when we did that. So I think we stopped construction right around sundown. For this project, we might go into the evening hours just due to the nature of having fall, winter, sundown is 5 o'clock, where in the summer it stops at 8, 9. I don't anticipate this to be a 24-hour operation. There are opportunities or benefits. We get things done quicker rather than days and risk, because sometimes when you have to stop and start on a certain process, a certain part of the work, sometimes to push it through the night is now you're done. But we will try to avoid that. I can never make any sort of 100% guarantees. I just know that we were able to complete Park Place and Willowbrook without having to do those sort of activities.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Next we have Joan Pador. Joan, I'm going to allow you to speak.
I would like to ask, on the west side of Petaluma, there's quite a few private wells, especially on D Street, I think. And I wonder if this well has any effect on those existing private wells.
Sure. Yeah. So we actually did access. There's a well that's, I guess, right down the hill, and we sized this and we designed this in a method. We talked about this a little bit on our meeting that we had back in August. But really, the amount of water that we're looking at removing at 200 GPM, it's not a lot, and the depth and the location of where we're trying to extract the water from really isn't going to have any effect on any of the local wells that we have in that area. That's our expectation, and that's what we're expecting to deliver, is that no impact to any of the wells that are in any sort of proximity to this well.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joan. Next we have Owen. Owen, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Hi, this is actually Joan Cooper, Owen Lang's wife. Owen is sitting next to me.
Hi, I'm here.
We live 2 houses down on Pleasant Street. So I have 3 questions. One is, what is the decibel level of drilling? What is the exact decibel level? And you don't have to answer me right away. You could get back to me with that, because it's like a scale of decibels, and I know they know what that is. So I think that would be good information to be on your website, the actual decibel level. The second question I have is, what are you planning to do for dust control? Will there be dust, and will they be wetting things down, or what are the plans for dust control? And then my third question is, because Pleasant Street is an extremely narrow street and Park Street is a little wider, what is going to be the situation with trucks coming up and down in terms of the safety of the residents, children going to the park, but most importantly, fire trucks being able to access the area if indeed something happens? Will there be trucks clogging narrow Pleasant Street, or will they be routed up Park Street? Okay, those are my 3 questions.
Sure. No, I can answer all of those. So for, well, I don't know the exact decibel level of the construction activities itself. What I do know is we have limitations for through our noise ordinance. I think it's 70 decibels, and any sort of activities need to fall within that time. Then this is where the sound attenuation, I mean, the sound walls come into play. So any sort of activities, and we usually have code compliance come with a noise decibel meter. And as we go through these activities, we measure and ensure that it doesn't exceed the noise ordinance levels that we have in the city of Petaluma, right? So, but I can definitely find that out, but we'll have some language to that effect of like, it has to fall within our noise ordinance. The second question was, I can answer, okay, so the construction, the trucks. So we won't have any sort of trucks parked and blocking access on Park Avenue, Pleasant. There will be truck deliveries, right? So they're gonna be delivering pipe materials. They're gonna be delivering, just the things for the construction activities, but they will use Park Avenue. That's, again, I just drove through that the other day. I could barely fit our little Bolt vehicle through Pleasant, down Pleasant. So we're not going to be using Pleasant as any sort of access to the site. We're going to be using, Park as our ingress and egress off of Bodega. But again, these will be intermittent, and these will be one-time things where we will access, deliver materials once we're at the beginning of the construction period, and and there'll be deliveries, maybe a couple different mobilizations of whether equipment at a one-time thing. Once we're drilling, we're done. Okay, now the pipe will have to be delivered for the well. It's almost like a one-time, one-day thing. But they will be using Park Avenue, and we'll have traffic control to make sure that any sort of car activities, but again, they won't be blocking Park Avenue. They won't be blocking Pleasant. They'll be accessing the site and then delivering and then off hauling and then leaving, right? Dust control. So none of the activities that we're doing as part of this project are really any sort of, we're not expecting grubbing and digging and scraping into the soil. We are looking at installing rock for stabilization for some of this, the trucks to kind of go through when they have something solid to sit on, and it will be removed once we're done with that activity. But we're not expecting any sort of, again, soil disturbance. This is really just a truck, that drill mounted rig that we're talking about, going to the site, setting up, and then just drilling right down into the ground. And that's it. There's really no bulldozers or any sort of scrubbing or any of that sort of activity that we're looking at doing.
Oh, thank you for those answers. I would be interested in the decibel level, because
I'll try to find that out.
that playground, I mean, is that playground going to be possibly cordoned off for certain days? Because very young children are playing there, and that kind of decibel level, even though it meets the possible upper limit of the ordinance, could be damaging to babies' ears. And they're not going to come to the playground with the noise cancellation headphones they might wear to a rock concert. So it's a real concern that parents might not be even aware of, that this noise could actually damage their children's ears. Could it be posted to this will be happening on these days? People read that and they say, oh, I'm not going to come on Thursday because it's going to be the really noisy day. I'll go to a different park.
Right. We will try to, I think the better thing that the city of Petaluma can do is install those sound barriers in a location in a manner to deflect sound to reach the playground. So we will revisit where we're installing that sound wall, and if there's an opportunity to keep that
Protect
so
the
that any
playground, maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
there needs to be one, definitely pre-planned for
Right.
to protect the playground. So fire and emergency ambulance access to Pleasant Street,
Mhm.
often like we had a big fire a couple of years ago about 3 houses up from Prospect, and the fire trucks could not make that turn. They could not come. And so, they were parked on Prospect. The other thing is they did not have access to water there. They actually ran a fire hose down. There is a hydrant right by my house, 333. And we had to tell the firemen, why don't you try up here? And they were like, thank you, thank you. So, emergency vehicles, we just have to be quite aware. We have a lot of seniors on Pleasant Street. We have to make sure that an ambulance can make it in. It can make it in on Park if it can't make that turn on Pleasant.
No, I fully understand.
Yes.
I will say in any of the construction activities that we have, the trucks coming in, again, we shouldn't be blocking any sort of access to that. What I will say also, so as far as that hydrant goes, as far as the water pressure, you're right, we're on top of the hill and there's not a lot of pressure in the natural system for zone 1 of where those hydrants are. That is one of the benefits of what this well can do, actually, is provide that pressure boost, at least some sort of water. It's not the 1500 GPM of what's an expected of a hydrant to be as normal fire suppression, but at least it's something that can be used to add that little pressure boost so that water can be delivered for some firefighting activities up there. That is a benefit.
I don't want to hog your time, but I just have no idea, like, okay, there's the well. How does this water get to people, or in emergency situations when we're going to call upon this well? Is there a pipe? How does this water get to people?
So what the well itself is actually going to have piping that is connected to the water distribution system. So what you don't see is a water pipe that runs really kind of between the labyrinth and the reservoir itself. That is our water distribution system. So we have a water pipeline that's right there.
Oh.
It goes down Park and extends over to Howard. I'm not sure if there's one that goes down Pleasant, but we have a pipe network. And so the well will be, when it's used, will be directly connected to that water distribution system.
Oh, interesting.
And so what we can do is we can add a hydrant to that. Right now, there's not a lot of pressure. So right now, that pipe receives pressure from the aqueduct and it receives pressure from our tanks that are up on Washington all the way across on Adobe. So
Wow.
You're seeing some of that pressure from the other side of town. So again, one of the opportunities that this well is going to do is a little bit of pressure boost in that area, again, for just activities and any sort of emergency firefighting activities, that just that extra little bit that might be helpful, right?
Thank you.
No problem.
Great. Okay, thanks, Joan and Owen. Next we have Toby Tyler. Toby, I am going to allow you to speak.
Oh, Toby.
My questions are for Dan, of course. So when you showed the pictures of the potential locations of the wellhead and the shed, that's my house that's in the background.
Oh.
So I'm obviously very concerned about the location of your laydown yard, the sound barrier construction, because it looks like from your drawings you'll be blocking my access to the park from my backyard. So I'm just asking that let's you and I get to know each other as the project goes along. because I really want to work with you to make sure that that access is retained in some way and that the sound wall construction and impacts of the construction are managed appropriately.
Of course, yeah, and we don't have to put it right on the fence, right? That is something that can maximize our lay down area. But again, we can put it 5 feet, 6 feet off of that fence line, and it provides a little avenue, maybe a little walkway for you to get access to the park through your fence. Yeah, we can definitely talk. But again, we'll make sure that we're not, removing any sort of access that you have already.
All right, a couple other quick things.
Sure.
Can you describe yet how power will be delivered to the well and to the shed from the transformer?
Sure. So there is right on Pleasant, there's there's a power pole, right? With high voltage power that we're going to be doing an underground piping, underground conduit, and PG is going to be installing some electrical lines to that transformer, that concrete mounted transformer. Now from there, we're going to be doing a directional drill underground through and up to where the location of the well shed is. That's where our meter is going to be set, where the well house is up on the hill. And then from there, it's going to go into the controls, the motors, the pump motors. And there's also going to be a conduit that goes down underground and ultimately into where the wellhead location is going to be, which then provides that electrical wiring down to the submersible well. That's right there. That might be shallow open trench. We got to see what the methods of construction that we can do, but we've already gone through that design process. So from the PG transformer and to the well house that's located on the hill, we're going to be doing a directional drill, and you can kind of go get underground, pop up, go vertical up to where that well, the well house location is.
Okay, so everything's undergrounded.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then the last question is the location of the wellhead looks to me, it's hard to tell, but it looks to me like it's pretty darn close to a path that runs right by there and provides access around the tank and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
How set are you about the specific location of the wellhead itself?
I went to the site. We have a swath that we could do. Again, I think the priority that we're going to have is trying to fit the drill mounted, the drill rig, so it doesn't impact the labyrinth. So we got to get a little bit away from it. But again, what we can do, what you'll see when this is finally and all said and done, it could be just like a manhole that's on the ground, right? Something that won't impact any sort of walkway or pathway. It could be directly adjacent. We can establish a new path as part of the project. But again, I think our priority, where that drill or that location is going to be, is really going to be dictated when that drill mounted rig it's delivered to the site, and we have to configure it and find a way to fit in between the lab. We don't want to impact the labyrinth. That's a priority for the site, where we need to kind of make sure we fit it in a specific location to where we're far enough away from the fence, and there's trees, and we want to get out of the canopy of those trees. We want to impact that canopy. So there's like a little bit of like a triangle between the tree canopy, that pathway that I know you're talking about, and then the labyrinth. So it's going to have to fit within that little area. But again, I think the priority that we have is to make sure that we're not impacting that labyrinth with that drill minute.
Dan, could you bring up that aerial view maybe just to walk through what you're talking about?
Let me see if I can get that
Thanks.
up and see what's easy, how to do that. So, okay. How do I share my screen again? Share. I believe it's this location. Share. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
I think this is right. This is what you're
Right.
talking about.
That's correct.
So there's a triangle. So this actually extends. So we have kind of this swath to work with, right? And so again, I think what we during the construction, again, unfortunately during construction, we're gonna be restricting access. Hopefully we can direct folks above, again, temporary nature, but we do want to protect the site, protect people from the equipment that's there, the laydown area. But ultimately, when this is all said and done, we're looking at this swath right here as where the rig's going to be, or where the well is going to be. And again, the final, what people see on that day-to-day basis, could be as simple as, let me see here. I think it's this one. It's this one.
Yeah, right.
As a manhole, right? It could be just a little manhole that's sitting on the side that's really unobtrusive. It just kind of sits there, doesn't really impact anything. So we don't have to go as elaborate as any sort of thing like this. We can have something really, really simple, and so that people don't even notice it while they're walking around, right?
Well,
but
I'm glad you're thinking of that, because that manhole view would probably be least impactful to people moving around. And as you probably know, occasionally the city brings in equipment back there to do tree trimming or weed whacking or things like that, and you don't want to mess that up either.
In all honesty, I'd much rather prefer the manhole. It's gonna be easier for us and easier access. I just want to make sure that if there's an opportunity to put something there in a permanent nature for the community, we can take an opportunity to try to do that and work around it. But yeah, I'm all for least intrusive and something that doesn't, it's very simple. The site that's there now, the labyrinth, is very important. That's the primary focus, and we can keep it that way.
All right, and promise me this: as we get closer to construction, let's trade cell phone numbers.
Sure. Yes, please. I have I think I have my landline now. It's on the website. I've had a couple phone calls this evening, helping people access this website. But please feel free to contact me. That's my landline. I have my email. But yeah, I can get your cell phone. You can have my work cell phone, and we'll talk with each other throughout the construction process.
Thank you, Dan.
No problem.
Great. Okay, let's see. I don't see any other hands. Is there?
Nope.
Oh, I do. A couple more just popped up. Okay. Kevin McD, I'm going to allow you to speak. Okay.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say I really appreciate the you guys put into tonight's presentation. That the presentation previously in the field, while wonderful, was at a shocking time, and it's so nice to see the staff working so well with public communication and connection. And I just want to say I appreciate staff's efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kevin. That was nice. Okay, and then Joe, I have you. I see your hand up again. I'm going to allow you to speak.
Yeah, and I had just a comment also about the Oak Hill tank. I'm pleased to see that there's plans to rehabilitate that, but also the idea of having a creative top for beyond what's currently there. So that's a real encouragement to see that in the works. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, and we're really looking forward to working with the community on all of these elements. All right. Anybody else? I don't see any more hands. I think we may be getting ready to wrap up here. Dan or Erica, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody. Thank you for attending. I really appreciate seeing people come and engage, with us with this project. We definitely have lessons learned from our original community meeting, but again, moving steps forward, being better, increasing that community input, and increasing that communication. Again, I think from the first meeting, building that trust with our community, that's going to be a priority for me and our team. So anytime we can move towards that goal is a good step. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I would just add again, likewise, thank you all for taking the time to attend tonight and hear these updates. My contact information, I'll be the project manager on the tank site project. So in addition to being able to go to that site and sign up for updates, you'll find my email information there as well if you have questions. And I look forward to, as we figure out the initial outreach steps, to communicating those out and beginning to work with you all and meet the community members. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dan and Erica. I do see one more hand, and I just wanted to reiterate for the Oak Hill Well, the website is cityofpetaluma.org/Oak Hill Well. And for the tank project, it's cityofpetaluma.org/Oak Hill Tank. And so at those web pages, as Erica just mentioned, you'll be able to see both her and Dan's contact information and also sign up to receive project updates. And Vicki, I see that you have your hand up. I'm going to allow you to speak.
Well, I too want to thank you all for having this meeting, for keeping us well informed. I feel much more comfortable than I did a few months ago. And also, I'm kind of curious, how many people attended this meeting?
At the height, we had 13, and that held steady for a while. We're at 12 now.
Okay. Well, thank you. Again, I appreciate all of you and your keeping us well informed on the project.
Thank you, Vicki. And I just want to echo what Dan and Erica said. We really appreciate everybody taking the time to join us tonight. I know it's no small feat to get an hour away from your evening, so much appreciated. And this is a really important part of our process. Andrew, I just saw your hand go up and down. Do you want to say anything? Oh, here it's up again. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Did you estimate how long the drilling will take? This 10 days, 5 days guesstimate?
Yeah, so the well drilling does take a couple days. I think I think it's a week to 2 weeks it'll take to kind of get that going. What happens is we drill the well. I believe it's an 8-inch pilot borehole. We take samples. We have to stop that effort, take samples, do analysis, have kind of a final design of where we're putting the screens, and then we come back and then we ream, and that generally takes another couple of days to finish. So overall, it's not a long part of the process, but there is that gap in between that we might start and stop, and then getting to the site, getting things delivered just takes time and effort. Overall, again, about 3 months we're expecting. That's kind of conservative, but yeah, the well activities shouldn't be taking weeks and weeks and weeks on end, right?
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, now I am not seeing any other hands. Would anybody else like to ask a question or make a comment? Okay, and we will have a recording of this meeting available on the project webpage early next week. So if you loved it so much you'd like to watch it again, it will be there. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.